Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Thursday, April 11th. Josh Allen, under contract for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have made some huge additions this offseason, with Eric Armstead coming in to fortify that defensive line, Mitch Morse coming in to fortify the interior of the offensive line. Some other nice pieces have been added to the mix as well. The addition of Ryan Nielsen as the defensive coordinator and the staff that he has brought in offers a ton of promise. You know, he helped the Falcons rapidly improve in key areas last year: third down defense, red zone. And while he loves press man coverage, he will bring a varied approach week to week, quarter to quarter in key moments. He's talked about that. You have to be multiple, you have to be versatile, you have to have multiple plans ready. So I think that the Jaguars will be a better coach defense. The Jaguars, though, they did lose Calvin Ridley, Darius Williams, some other key players. The Titans, they massively upgraded their roster. The Texans are one of the most in vogue teams in football after what they've done this offseason and what they did in 2023, of course. And the Colts aren't going anywhere either, right? That's another talented, well-coached football team. This is going to be a challenging division for the Jaguars to win. The Jags are facing a second-place schedule in 2024. So we're going to talk about here today, what is the Jaguars' best path forward for winning not only in 2024, but long-term. And make no mistake about it, the goal is to win a championship. It is to win a Super Bowl, right? You know, getting to the playoffs is not the goal. Being a good team is not the goal. Winning a Super Bowl title for the first time in franchise history is the goal. So we're going to talk about what the best path forward is for the Jaguars. They have a lot of different options moving forward here. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear. So let's dive into this. Why don't we? The Jaguars' best path forward. I think landing a bona fide wide receiver one needs to be among the top priorities for the Jaguars, perhaps at the very top of the list for them. They have Christian Kirk, who is a great slot receiver. Evan Ingram, a very good receiving tight end. Gabe Davis, a nice vertical threat. Zay Jones, a somewhat reliable fourth option at receiver. A guy who can get the job done, who does have chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, the injury-riddled season in 2023 is kind of marring what you view Zay Jones as. But none of these guys are outside wide receiver ones. And none of them are homegrown. They all cost money. They cost a lot, right? Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, the two most expensive receivers. Evan Ingram right up there with Gabe Davis in terms of his contract. And then Zay Jones, final year of his deal. In my opinion, getting a bona fide stud wide receiver on a cost-controlled contract is likely the most stable way to move forward for the Jaguars. If you want to go all in on the next couple years, you know, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, they're out there, potentially available for trade. I'm very much good with getting one of those guys because that offers you immediate wide receiver one type of play on the outside. Who knows, though, if the 49ers or Bengals would be willing to strike a deal. It's unclear. Both of those teams feel like they're in championship windows as well. But again, from a long-term stability standpoint, landing like a Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors makes more sense. What would you have to give up to land one of those prospects? I mean, probably 17 and a couple thirds, a third and a second. Not sure exactly what it would cost to get up to where you would need to get up to land one of those guys. But it wouldn't be cheap. You could also land one at 17. Not one of those guys, but a receiver who could eventually be a wide receiver one. But we've also seen teams without elite receiving cores do some serious damage in the playoffs and even win the Super Bowl. I think if you have a game plan style defense that denies a lot of the easy stuff and has an elite unit or two within that defense, that can change the game. That can certainly change the game. You know, what if the Jaguars had Josh Allen, Eric Armstead, Trayvon Walker, Devon Hamilton, and Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy on the interior to supplement that? Or Jared Verse on the edge to be edge three. You know, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, and Jared Verse, those three guys have a lot of versatility within their game where they can align in this Ryan Nielsen defense. Can you imagine the headaches that would cause? I think Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy. I love Devon Hamilton. I have a hard time believing that he could hold those two guys off, or one of those two guys off, for very long. And he's bigger than both of them, but they are both very good run defenders in their own right, and they're much better pass rushers than Devon Hamilton. So when you talk about, and again, up front with the defensive line, that is the group in the NFL that has the most rotation, right? You can rotate that defensive front. You can get a lot of guys, a lot of snaps along the defensive front. And so, again, adding depth, adding talent, adding someone else who can really impact the game at a high level up front makes sense for me in the first round as well. If you simply stick and pick at 17 or even trade down just a bit, one of those three guys could be the result for you. You could then add a cornerback and a wide receiver in rounds 2 and 3, continue to supplement the offensive line throughout the draft. I'd be good with that for sure. The Jaguars could also stick and pick or trade back and draft a wide receiver or a cornerback. You go Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr. I know a lot of people are out on Keon Coleman. I'm still not. But if you did that in the first round and then, say, get an Ennis Rakestraw or Renardo Green in the second, then someone who can help the rotation up front in the third, that makes a lot of sense as well. Again, different options for the Jaguars. You could take Quinyon Mitchell, who I don't think will be there, but Terrion Arnold or Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then supplement with wide receiver in the second, defensive front player in the second or third, right? There's different ways the Jaguars can succeed with this offseason, with the rest of this offseason. I think they've done a really good job. Kudos to Balky for getting Eric Armstead and Mitch Morris, not letting them leave the building, making sure that they stay in Jacksonville. Obviously, I think he bungled the Calvin Ridley situation a little bit, but he can remedy that if the Jaguars are able to land a true wide receiver one on the outside. And they don't have to necessarily have a wide receiver one in 2024. If you go get like a Brian Thomas Jr. or an Adonai Mitchell and they're not immediately a wide receiver one, or somebody in the second or third round, they're not immediately a wide receiver one for you, that's okay. As long as they can contribute in a role within this offense and do that at a fairly high level, you're going to be happy because you have high volume receiving targets already. Like I mentioned, you have Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. Gabe Davis can catch a bunch of passes, and even Zay Jones can when fully healthy as well. So it's not do or die like they have to have this wide receiver one. If they just added another good piece to the wide receiver room, I think you could feel really good about it. I think there's a tremendous amount of options for how this can play out for the Jaguars. I think they will be better coached on both sides of the ball in 2024 with Ryan Nielsen being the defensive coordinator. And again, I've talked about this. I don't think that Doug Peterson had any reason to say that he might take over play calling duties unless it's going to happen. Because you plant that seed of doubt within the organization, certainly in Press Taylor's mind early in the offseason, to then just let Press Taylor be the full-time play caller again. That doesn't make sense to me. I think Doug Peterson's going to be more hands-on with the offense. I think that he is going to be the Jaguars' offensive play caller again. So, as long as Trent Baalke keeps his head on straight after the first round of this draft, which is a big if, it is. But as long as he does that, the Jaguars have a good chance to reclaim the AFC South, in my opinion, even with the rising levels of competition within the division. At this point, if I had to say what is the very best path forward, I'd probably lean towards trading up for Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors. But you really can't go wrong with any of the ideas that I've laid out today because, again, I think that there is wide receiver talent in the first round, second round, third round. I think there's cornerback talent in all three of those rounds. And I think there's defensive front talent. Whether you go in like an edge in round 3 or a defensive lineman in round 3, I think you can land a guy that can make an impact for you in year one. And I think, again, corner, second round, third round, first round, doesn't matter. Wide receiver, first round, second round, third round. I do think that you're potentially losing out if you don't go wide receiver in the first round or trade for a wide receiver. I think you're losing out potentially on the potential of landing a true wide receiver one, but you're not missing out on the potential of landing a true impact receiver, right? And again, with the receiving talent the Jaguars have, you don't necessarily need a wide receiver one for 2024 or 2025, But the reason I'm so keen on going and getting a Romo Dunze or Malik Neighbors is because you get a cost-controlled, bona fide stud at wide receiver when you're about to start having to pay Trevor Lawrence in the next couple years, right? You want to get cheaper at that position. You've been spending and spending and spending at wide receiver. I think you would like to get cheaper. And Romo Dunze or Malik Neighbors represents the opportunity to do that. So does Brian Thomas Jr. and Adonai Mitchell, and in my opinion, Keon Coleman. But I think you've got good options. Love to know what you guys think. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know which path you want the Jaguars to take here before this 2024 NFL draft and in this 2024 NFL draft. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. I do think that Jags fans should be excited about 2024 and beyond. If a little bit weary about what happens after the first round, with Trent Baalke making these draft picks. We'll see how it all plays out. But I really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear. Y'all have a good one.